thank you so much. And just to confirm, have I got my audio on? Cheryl, can you? Perfect. I was going to say, Cheryl, you're the one I can see. So if something screws up, it's you that's going to have to wave and whatever.
Okay.
Sawubona, everyone. I see you and I feel you seeing me. That connection, namaste, heart to heart, soul to soul, across space and time, we are present to one another. And if that idea of connecting resonates with you, I invite you to affirm Yabo Sawubona. I see you seeing me. So the theme for Unity Worldwide Ministries for 2020 was perfect vision, seeing through a spiritual lens. And for the month of August, it's acceptance. I release resistance and experience acceptance. Let's just affirm that together. I release resistance and experience acceptance. So really one aspect of that is loving what is, which is great and is beautiful in theory. And then there's stuff like the coronavirus and you go, not as easy to love. Or how about systemic oppression? In our face is not so easy to love. Gypsy moths. I don't know if anybody else is aware of the huge population we've got chewing on our forests right now, but it's hurting my heart. And food, just the challenge of all the things that go on with food. So what do we do with this? And why love what is? Why bother trying to love the unlovable? There's lots of things that are easy to love. Why not just stick with the easy stuff to love and let somebody else love the rest? Well, one reason is because by loving whatever shows up, it ends the war on reality. When we fight reality, when we fight what is in our face, we lose 100% of the time because the reality is it's there. You go, well, there's a deeper reality, which is in life is going to happen and some of it's going to be painful. And the more we can accept it, the less suffering happens. The suffering is the resistance to whatever pain is showing up. And then the biggest reason is unity principle number 3, which is the law of mind action. And the law of mind action says the frequency that we project out is the frequency that's going to be reflected back. We're creating our world around us, and it's going to be showing up for us at the frequency that we're expressing. So everything is either fear or love. And that frequency, when we're refusing to love the unlovable, then we're projecting out a frequency of not love or a frequency of fear, and that's what we're going to be creating more of. And I don't think any of us want that. If we wanted that, we'd be able to embrace all those unlovable things going, oh yeah, I want more of this. And usually that's not how we're feeling about it, right? Usually we're doing, maybe not so much. But in the pushing away, we don't realize that we're actually creating more of it. So if we're sort of in this paradox of push-pull, what do we do with that? What do we do with that? Well, loving what is. We have stimulus and reaction. Something shows up and we react to it. And if we can separate stimulus and reaction a little bit, then we have the opportunity to squeeze love in there. And instead of stimulus reaction, we get stimulus response. And response gives us the opportunity to move in a direction that is different than the painful, unlovable direction that we were coming from. So that's that looking through a spiritual lens. So let's look at what this could look like when it comes to relating to food. when it comes to food, I don't know about you, but there's so many things for me that have come up around it. Um, Through this whole COVID thing, becoming aware that food on my plate, an awful lot of it is there thanks to slave labor. I can afford to put food on my plate thanks to slave labor on somebody else's back. Doesn't feel good. Even my organic food carries some of that energy. Then there's the issues of wheat and sugar and gluten and dairy and GMO, and whether or not it's local or within the 100-mile, whether how processed it is, how toxified it is with insecticides or herbicides or pesticides, whether it's vegan or not vegan or keto or not keto, whether it's cruel to animals or cruel to somebody else in the process of getting there, whether it's empty of nutrients or has something that'll poison me, whether it's too big or whether it's waste, whether it's sitting there, you know, the celery that's wilted in the fridge and you're going, do I eat it or toss it? And not being able to deal with the waste, or waste, that whole, you know, W-A-I-S-T rather than W-A-S-T-E, you know, what's going into my body and onto my butt or my waist. And I recognized that I was just framing both myself and my food as not good enough. There was a problem with every aspect of it. My inner critic was totally out of control. And I forget what it was I was staring at in my hand at the time that I was going to eat anyway, even though I shouldn't eat it, that whole should thing. And I'm just going like, to eat it in this space of mind is not good for me, and it's not respectful of what's on my fork or in my hand that's going in my mouth. Like the energy frequency, that whole principle 3, there was nothing about that situation that was who I wanted to be or how I wanted to show up in the world or anything. I was condemning and criticizing anything food. There was nothing that any piece of food could be that would be okay. And there was no part of me that was, you know, doing anything about making it okay. And I recognize I do the same thing to myself all the time around what I'm doing. You know, whatever I'm doing, there's something else I should be doing more or should be doing different or whatever. So just that whole story of not good enough was showing up. And I go, I can't stick with this story. So looking at it through a spiritual lens, accepting that this has been the story I've been running and letting it go. And what does that look like? You know, dear inner critic, thanks for sharing. Everything you've said is duly noted. You've had your say. Please be quiet. Please sit down. And then it's like, look around and, okay, dear inner voice, dear love, dear Christ within, dear God, you know, what do I do with this? And one of the things that came up was the Ho'oponopono prayer. I apologize. I apologize to my food for seeing it this way. I apologize for seeing it as not good enough. I apologize to myself for seeing myself and for condemning my inner critic too. Just making the whole thing a whole lot gentler and a whole lot more accepting. I apologize. Please forgive me. That opening to something different, opening to see my food different, opening to bring a different mind to it, opening to forgiving my inner critic, and opening to being different myself. Thank you. Thank you for the awareness. Thank you for willing to be here in relationship with me. Thank you for blessing my body. Thank you for the awareness. I love you. I love you, my food, whatever it is in my hand or my fork. I love you, all of the parts of me, including the inner critic that only wants the best for me, despite what she might have to say. And just working with those. Another tool that came to mind, looking through that spiritual lens and releasing the resistance, was Sawabona. I see you. Looking at what's on my fork or in my hand that's about to go in my mouth and saying, Sawabona, we come together in this moment. I see you. I see you with the light of God, that which allows my eyes to see looks out at you and sees you seeing me, the higher aspect of me. I see in you strawberry that has been GMO'd and pesticided, but I also see the essence of strawberry that is everything that God made you to be, both to procreate more strawberries as well as to bless and nourish the bodies of other beings like me. We are here in this moment with you on my fork in my hand, ready to be consumed by me, willing to be consumed by me. Everything that took it for you, your whole journey here, whether it was through abused soil or blessed soil, whether it came from through the hands of servants or slaves or people who love their gardens, it doesn't matter. It brought you here to me, to this moment, to this sacred moment that we can make sacred, you, dear strawberry, and me. And welcome to my body. I trust and know that you will nourish me to the full extent of your ability, and the Christ within you will radiate through you and draw forth your essence to bless my body. And I know that my body can make the most of you and bless you with the consciousness that I have and built up, the love that I have, that we can create a sacred time together. I know that my body can release the aspects of you that don't serve me. I trust and know this, and I can eat the strawberry from that space. And it doesn't matter what is on my fork, whether it's meat or whether it's processed cheesy or whether it, whatever. I can go through that same process and love my food and accept that, yes, I am imperfect. I'm going to eat things that I shouldn't eat. I'm going to eat too much of it or eat too little of it or eat it all in the wrong time. But in the same way that I can love and bless the strawberry for its essence, I can let it love and bless me for my essence, and I can own my own faults and be okay with them. Just to come to a different level of wholeness around the whole thing. And as I went through this process, and I admit that it was a process that has actually gradually worked down so that I can say all of that in the one word, sawabona, with each bite that I eat. And as I have adopted that practice, I'm a whole lot gentler with myself, a whole lot gentler with my food, and I'm making wiser choices with respect to what I choose to buy, what I choose to eat, and what comes into sacred moment with me. We're both good enough. Me, the strawberry, and everything else. We're all good enough. Acceptance, peace, love, alignment, freedom. Okay, relating to the gypsy moth through the spiritual lens, with that releasing resistance and accepting and coming into that acceptance. Sawabona, dear gypsy moth, I see you, and recognizing that when I looked at an individual gypsy moth, now with the thousands, it's the males that are brown and flying all over the place, and there's thousands of them. Any one of them is absolutely beautiful to look at individually. And when focused on it, to address it with that attitude of sawabona, I'm here, you're here, we're in this space together. I want to see you through the eyes of the Christ Center. I'm listening. What do you have to tell me? What can I share with you? Looking for how to make that connection. And recognize that that too can be good enough. And as I'm seeing that individual moth in all of his absolute beauty, I was going to say, there they are. The white one is the females, and they don't fly. It's only the males that fly. And seeing those moths and witnessing them individually, any one of them doesn't eat enough to bother a tree. It doesn't even eat enough really to bother a couple of leaves. It's just no big deal. It's what they do collectively. And as I was sitting there talking to the moth saying, like, if you guys could just come into balance, you know, like it wouldn't be a problem. I see your beauty. I see the Christ light within you. And the moth was looking back at me, you know, and nodding, and I'm going, as I look at what, and I'm going, this moth, these moths are just reflecting back to us, humanity, with the same message, going, you've destroyed more forests than we have. You brought us here. You're the ones that brought us out of balance because there's nothing here that eats us. And I'm sitting there going, oof. It's like, yeah. So how do we come back into balance? And that, you know, dear inner critic, thanks for sharing. I apologize for condemning you, dear gypsy moth. Please forgive me for seeing you in this hard light. Thank you for the awareness. I love you. And then it comes to that, what we see in consciousness, we see what consciousness can see. And what the moth revealed to me was how we're actually getting better, where there is optimism and hope. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200, 300 years ago, competition, survival of the fittest, this was the model that we understood nature worked from. This was how so many scientific papers were presented and as proof of this. And what we're finding is that as our consciousness shifts, science is revealing that there's way more collaboration and cooperation in nature than we ever realized. And it's becoming revealed to us, and it's showing us how to live if we look to it. One of the most recent ones that I witnessed was research that shows that bees and butterflies that look so incredibly intelligent for flying around in the perfect pattern to, you know, never go to a flower before it has nectar again. We thought they were just brilliant. And it's like, no, actually, it isn't that they've solved the traveling salesman problem of how do you optimize your travel route. It's all about the flowers signaling to the butterflies and the insects when there is nectar available to have. And they just go to where the flags are up that, yes, this is, I'm good here, I'm good here. That is a level of cooperation and collaboration that we could learn from. You know, our systems have to change. And the fact that we are now aware of this, that science is now seeing this, shows that our consciousness has shifted enough to see it. Whoa! Acceptance, peace, love, alignment, freedom. Relating to systems of oppression. Whoops, some of these are all out of order. Okay, here we go. Looking at through the spiritual lens again, that I release resistance and experience acceptance. Looking at our education, medical, political, economic, food, agricultural, finance, marketing, judicial, penal systems, all of it has such embedded systemic oppression. And we need to get it that accepting and love does not equal loving, justifying, or excusing, or turning a blind eye to. Accepting and love means acknowledging it, recognizing its existence, recognizing a preference for change, extending love to it with an invitation to change. That being gentle with ourselves, being gentle with all of the circumstances, with all of the attitudes, with all of the energies that brought things into existence in the first place. It's that Sawabona approach again. So when we look at ourselves, we asking questions with compassion, curiosity, with an open mind and an open heart. And really it goes back to the song that Trish sang right off the top, loving ourselves the way we are with a willingness to grow. Where am I supporting oppression within myself and around myself? Where am I declaring war on things, whether it's a war on gypsy moth or a war on my food or a war on systemic everything, or a war on injustice? Where is intolerance showing up within me? And just acknowledging that it's there. Where do I have my knee on my own throat or on somebody else's with rules that I can't play by or can't win by, rules that oppress myself and other people? Where am I pretending that everything is okay when it's not? And what do I do with those answers? Again, when we ask those questions with curiosity, with love, from a space of wisdom, we get the answers. And then it's like, okay, so what do we do with that? Sawabona, ho'oponopono. Jesus taught the answers to these questions through the Beatitudes. Neil Douglas Klotz did a beautiful book on it. Martha Creek has been teaching it online. I don't know whether she's offering it again. I know she will offer it again eventually. Byron Katie, the work, you find it online on YouTube. Martha Creek, tons of ways of stepping through these things. Eye of the Storm, a book that's available through Unity and any number of other places. Our own Unity principles. Notice that the last Unity principle, step 5, is take action. So it's, again, goes back to the not excusing or writing off, but having the courage to look at it, accept what is, and go from there. Change comes from within, and we can grow into it. And the potentials right now are so rich and abundant, and we're making those giant shifts as we just discussed. So that prayer that we go back to through that spiritual lens, releasing resistance and experiencing acceptance. I invite you to pray together with me. The divine within me reveals the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I grow in joy and well-being. Sawabona, sawabona, sawabona. Inside, outside, bigger at all levels. Amen. And so it is. Let's take that into meditation, and Trish has a beautiful song to lead us into that. And we breathe in, breathe into our heart center. And even put your hands over your heart and just draw in your breath to that space. Acknowledging the one power, one presence, life force that lives us, breathes us, of which we are each and all a sacred part. Breathing into that love. I invite you to join me in a breathing exercise that invites change and calibration. Just breathing into your heart space through your nose, if that's comfortable. And as you exhale, exhale in 3 stages. Exhale a third of your breath and pause. Exhale another third and pause. And exhale the final third and pause. And as you breathe in this manner, talk to your body. Thank it for looking after all of the pieces and parts of you that it takes to live. For looking after all the autonomic systems, your breathing, your heart rate, all of that. For using the thought patterns and beliefs that you hold as the guidance system. And invite it now for change. Dear body, we've done things and you've looked after things so long. And I am so grateful. My entire life, you have kept my heart beating and my lungs breathing with all of the systems and all of the things required to do that. In this moment, I acknowledge you. I give thanks, and I give thanks that you do this for me regardless of, how critical I am, or regardless of whether I've given you the appreciation and acknowledgement that you so deserve. In this moment, I acknowledge you and I love you and appreciate you. And I invite us to change, to open to the possibility of living into deeper well-being, living into greater sense of love, greater sense of acceptance, greater sense of what that can mean. I acknowledge the high aspect of me, that Christ within me, that light within me, that God within me, that knows what that looks like and is radiating right now with excitement and enthusiasm for my openness to receive that. I invite us to sit in the silence now for a few minutes as we take in what life has to offer us in terms of the wisdom. If it's comfortable to continue to breathe in that staggered way, it's a means of disrupting the old pattern with an invitation to a new pattern and a new way of being. If it's comfortable to keep going with that, do so. And if it's not, just give thanks for that awareness. There are other ways of breathing. And maybe there's another way that's even richer for us. I invite you just to take it into the silence. Your heart knows. Called to deeper compassion, deeper acceptance, deeper living, deeper awareness, deeper joy, deeper wonderment. Wherever we are right now is perfect, and we can grow from here. for the awareness of this. We bless our critics inside and out. And we stretch our freedom from them, taking their wisdom and leaving the judgment. In loving gratitude for the opportunity to come together. Amen. Sawabona.